Well, welcome to our Pulse, virtual Pulse presentation. My name is Sarah Pearson. I am with the Boca Chamber, and I love today's panel. It's a rock star panel. It is the coolest panel I think we've ever had. The three panelists are fun, are smart, and have awesome stories to tell about how they pivoted pretty quickly through the pandemic, and some really positive experiences to share. So now what I'd like to do is bring up our fearless leader, Amanda Ellis. She has been the chair of this committee now for the Pulse Committee for 2 years. We kept her on another year because she did such an excellent job, and she has definitely led us into great success. And unfortunately, in 11 days, she will no longer be our chair. She'll be our immediate past chair. So we still get to keep her on the committee, but she will be passing that gavel on to Jordan Sherwood. So I just personally want to thank you for everything you've done. You've been just a very even leader, very professional, very fair, and really helped build our committee up. So I appreciate that. And what Amanda's going to do is kick off the program, introduce the panelists, and be our moderator. So without further ado, Miss Amanda Ellis, thank you.
Well, thank you, Sarah. That was very sweet. You got me a little bit there. So hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Like Sarah said, my name is Amanda Ellis. I'm the Director of Events at Oceans 234, and it has been my honor to be the chair for the last 2 years. We are super excited for this panelist, especially because my fearless leader, Danielle Rossi, is a part of it, so I'm extra excited today. So without further ado, I would like to allow each of our panelists to kind of introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about themselves, and then we'll start in with some questions. So I'm going to kick it off with Ken Lebersfeld from Capital Lighting. Ken? Hi, Ken.
Hi, just a little intro. I'm Ken Lebersfeld. I'm the CEO of Capital Lighting. We are in the retail lighting business since 1924. We have 7 brick and mortar stores and an e-commerce website, 1-800lighting.com. We have 130 people on our team. We are forecasting sales this year to be just shy of $60 million for 2020. Last year, e-commerce was 40% of our business. This year, we are forecasting it to be just over 60% of our business with the change in what's going on. Our core values spells the acronym PRAISE. It's for professionalism, respect, attitude, integrity, service, and effectiveness. And our core purpose, our why, is making lives brighter.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Those are some impressive stats. All right, next we'll go over to Giana Pacinelli with BRiC. Giana, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, my name is Giana Pacinelli. I am the marketing director for Crocker Partners. For those of you not familiar with Crocker, we are an owner, operator, and developer of office and mixed use throughout the southeastern United States. We've been headquartered in Boca Raton for over 30 years, most known for the development of Meisner Park. Today, we're currently the largest office landlord in the state of Florida, and we manage 30% of office space here in Boca Raton, including Boca Center and Boca Raton Innovation Campus.
Awesome. All right, and next off to Danielle Rossi, owner of Oceans 234.
Thank you, Amanda. And Sarah, thank you for allowing me to have Amanda back now after her 2-year stint with you guys. But I'm Danielle Rossi, the owner of Oceans 234 in Deerfield Beach. We've been there just about 20 years now, and we are fully operational. Our bar is open for those of you who have been missing it. Naturally socially distant and with our beautiful outside patio, but it's a pleasure to be here today. So thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. All right, you guys, I'm going to start off some of the questions. Feel free, if somebody wants to jump in first, let me know. But our very first question is going to be, how did your business adapt in the beginning of the pandemic? And now what are you continuing to do to adapt?
I guess if we go in the same order.
All right, perfect.
The first thing we did was get our leadership team together and try to get an assessment of what was going on the ground. We all went and got outside perspective. I did lean a lot on my peer groups, folks from the chamber, of course. Make sure that we got enough info, but not too much info. when you've got a crisis unfolding, there's a lot of information out there. And then we just made sure, don't panic. Have sense of perspective. Just do an honest assessment of what's going on. And we didn't sugarcoat it. We didn't fool ourselves. And we just decided all we're going to do is just control the controllable. We reviewed past crises and what did we do right and what did we do wrong. I mean, our last big crisis was 2008. We found that we were too slow in reacting to what was going on in 2008. We were too optimistic with the brevity and the depth of what we thought was going on. And we were too slow to make the changes that we actually made. Like Winston Churchill says, never waste a good crisis. So we did take the opportunity back in 2008 to change a lot of things that we did need to change. But in this past crisis, like once we had enough information and we decided we were in a crisis, we brainstormed what was our best case and worst case scenario and decided we were going to execute on what we perceived to be the worst case scenario. In any business, the most important thing is never, ever, 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 ever run out of cash. Once you run out of cash, game over. So we looked at everything that we could do to preserve cash, reduce outflows, increase inflows. And I think one thing that we did exceptionally well this time that we certainly did not do well last time was communicate. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Honest, frequent, empathetic communication to your team. We communicated with our vendors. We communicated with our bankers. And we did not sugarcoat. We were just honest. We did not panic, and that's I think that was our really secret sauce to getting through the crisis.
That's awesome.
And we're still in it.
Yeah, exactly.
I
love that you say don't panic. Awesome. Giana?
Yeah, so the first thing that we did was send all non-essential workers to work from home. While we just kind of got our bearings, we scheduled a company-wide town hall meeting through Zoom. And on the call, our partners gave assurances to the 160 plus employees that we have across our portfolio that their jobs were safe, that they would continue to be paid in full, and the frontline workers, the engineers and the maintenance staff that were going to still be on the ground would continue to be working, but in shifts. And they actually received hazard pay for having to be on the front line. We also established a remobilization task force made up of senior regional property managers, myself on the communication side, and our director of construction and development. And we were in charge of establishing the protocols for our internal team members and also for our buildings. On how and understanding what all these different guidelines were from the CDC and the WHO, and as they rolled those and kind of running with it, being the ones reviewing the guidelines and seeing how that translates into our properties. And by July, we had also hired a medical doctor as our director of environmental health, who is now single-handedly our task force. With the support of us, of course, to ensure that our buildings stay fully open and operational, which they have been throughout the entire pandemic.
Oh, that's really impressive.
Wow.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Danielle?
Thank you. Yeah, so with the closing that we saw coming, we knew it was going to be inevitable. And for us, there was no adapting kind of business as we knew it. So we started to do business as we did not know it. And we literally overnight transformed our full service restaurant into a grocery store. The day that we had to close, I had gone to Publix and it was kind of felt a little end of days, no chicken, no eggs, no milk, like what is happening here? And I was speaking to one of my suppliers and I'm telling him, you know, how I had this crazy experience going through our grocery store. And he said, you know, that's nuts because I have a warehouse full of food and I have no one to sell it to. And literally the light bulb went off, and inside of 12 hours overnight, Amanda and the rest of our team, you know, we put together an online ordering platform, a delivery service, and every day just started adding products that we thought our guests would need, and these essentials, anything from, you know, a filet mignon to toilet paper. And for the next 6 weeks, we shifted into this business that we'd never been into. And luckily we really adapted to the needs of our guests and what we knew that they were in need for. You know, they didn't want to leave their homes, and we were able to provide that service. So I have to say our team worked tirelessly 7 days a week to put that together. And it was amazing. And then halfway through that, we found a partnership with Broward County Schools. 60% of the kids in Broward County depend on their meals, their breakfast and lunch through the school district. And with the district shut down, those meals needed to be produced and distributed. So we took that on, and we produced between April and June 182,000 meals out of our dining room, because we couldn't use the dining room. It was pretty much closed down, and created an assembly line and new jobs. And thanks to Amanda, who really spearheaded that entire project. I mean, she was out there in the car lines, in distribution sites, coordinating refrigerated trucks and staff to get those meals out. So for us, we knew that we wouldn't survive in a to-go environment, just doing to-go food. And these two opportunities popped up. And I'm grateful that we didn't think about it when we started to mobilize, because we probably would have panicked and said, is this really going to work? But luckily, both those things worked for us.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to actually skip the next question because I think all of you just kind of touched base on it. So what is the most important thing that you've learned during this time as a business owner?
I make sure that you have a good team in place when times are good. As we kept examining the difference between how we handled 2008 and how we handled 2020. One of the huge differences was in 2008, we did not have the same kind of team on board. And it was one of the things we worked on after that, to have people that got it, establish trust with your team, so that when you have a crisis and you have something to deal with, that everybody's on board. You've already built up the team. You've already built up the trust. So a good team, just like Danielle was referring to what happened with you and your team. You immediately saw what was going on, and you make a shift. There's not a question. Everybody gets it. And those kind of things you have to do all during. You can't wait until a crisis to get that done. That you have to work on every single day, especially when times are good, building the team and building trust.
Thank you very much. Giana?
Yeah, so our managing partner, Angela Bianco, said very early on, you only get one chance to do the right thing. And we kind of let that carry us through every decision that we made. We wanted to be overly strict with our protocols from the onset, rather than not being strict enough and having to double back. This is why we have a mask mandate in all of our buildings across our portfolio. When you enter the buildings, when you're in common area, regardless of what phase of reopening those regions are in, we wanted to make sure that when people walked into our building, they had a sigh of relief, that they knew that they were safe, and that they could feel comfortable. And to Ken's point, establishing trust with your team, but also with your customers. We wanted to overly communicate everything we were implementing in our buildings and why we were implementing them. And I really think that in this time of panic, it's important to establish that trust early on and let them know that, we're a team in this, and that we will be a team at the end of this.
Thank you. I love that. You only get one chance to do the right thing. That's awesome. It's a great quote to live by. Danielle?
Yeah, thanks. So it's interesting because in a leadership role, you tend to feel like you're in control and you can control everything around you. And with this situation, it was left me with a completely kind of helpless, out of control feeling. And I think oftentimes, in that leadership role, your team kind of gets comfort in knowing, they've got this under control, or they can pull a lever and fix things here or there. And this was the opposite in this situation. So Ken mentioned panic, and I think really quickly I realized that having composure when things were happening and not having that like, oh shit, what is happening right now moment in front of people, saying, okay, this is the issue of the day, this is how we're going to overcome it, had to happen. And I knew that, you know, it was sort of like all eyes on me. And if she's panicking, like, what does that mean for the rest of us? So I don't think I always got it right. And but I really realized how important having composure and taking one item on at a time, and so that your team realized we were in this together.
I mean, and that's, I think
in
that's,
fact, I was there. I saw her do it.
it is realizing as a leader that you can't do this by yourself. And if everybody's looking to you to be the savior, that's not going to happen. And we got everybody that we're going to control the controllable. There are definitely going to be some things that we can't control, and we're just going to have to deal with it. And we'll make the best of whatever the situation is there. And, you know, when you look at the worst case scenario and say, all right, that we can handle that. You just open the blinds and let the sunlight in and say, here's what we got going on. And everybody just has to take a look at it and band together and figure it out from there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why we invited the three of you onto this panel, is because you all kind of show that. So wonderful. All right, you guys, we'll move on to our next question. What was your immediate focus once we knew this pandemic was going to last a long time? Ken?
You know, we once we knew that this was kind of a new normal, or this is the way things were going to be for some time here, we had to get our stores ready to be open. Just like Giana said, you had to get the buildings ready to be occupied. We knew we had to make sort of a permanent, we had to make permanent the things that we were doing that we thought might be only temporary. We moved our workstations around. We had sanitizers, masks. But one of the things that we saw the shift to e-commerce accelerating. It was something that we had already been preparing for, and we knew was going to be a bigger and bigger part of our sales and our focus. All this did was accelerate it, just kicked the steroids in on it. So we did build up our e-com team quickly, and we did shift a lot of people virtual. We had in-store sales teams taking e-commerce calls. We selected different types of touch points. When the stores weren't open, we had to have some other way to evaluate. We had to have some other sales metrics. We measure, you know, store traffic and conversion. Those were metrics we couldn't measure because store traffic was freaking zero. So that was not possible. So we measured other touch points. How many phone calls? How many emails? Our construction business at least was still listed as essential business. So that was an area that we could still go after. And we had clientele that we had the opportunity to cultivate. And so those are the permanent changes we made to include those metrics and those statistics, rather than saying, okay, these are just temporaries. It's permanent now. It's part of our sales zeitgeist right now.
Very nice. Giana?
Yeah, so with the knowledge that the virus can travel through air particles, there was obviously a certain level of responsibility on our part to determine what is the best way to make our buildings safe and clean. And we knew that we aren't infectious disease experts. So we decided to, hire one in-house. So our director of environmental health and wellness was our first goal, was getting him onboarded, getting him familiar with our buildings, and then helping guide us with what should we do next. Wellness has become an increasingly important trend even before the pandemic, and we think that it will be something that will continue to be more important for years to come. So this isn't just a consultant. He works with us full time, and he's going to be there after this pandemic to kind of take his knowledge of infectious disease and apply it to our building systems to make sure they're the safest and most sustainable in the industry. Now, our next step, now that we have him, is determining the best HVAC upgrade solution for us, ensuring we have optimum air quality in our buildings. So we're going to invest several $1,000,000 in this across the portfolio. So we have now just onboarded a mechanical engineer as a consultant to dive deep into the specifics of our buildings and determine, again, what should we do and what is going to put us in the best possible position to ensure our buildings are the safest and most sustainable.
Wow, that's really impressive. Very impressive. All right, Danielle.
Thanks. So I think when this first started, like everybody here, it kind of felt like a hurricane. Like we're all shut down, but this is going to blow over. And by next week, we're going to open up and it's going to be business as usual. And I think it took me a little bit longer to get over that notion that like, this is not going anywhere. So I've stopped kind of thinking about it as like the period of the pandemic and try to shift our thinking of really how have the needs of our guests and our team changed, you know, and how do we adapt to that, and not focus just strictly on the pandemic in this period of time, but the needs of our customer and our guests are adjusting rapidly. So every week we've noticed that things have changed, whether people want to sit inside or outside or near people, or this is really silly, but you know, at first we had all of our servers wearing gloves, and then we found that nobody washes their hands and they're just using these gloves over and over and over, touching things. Like, let's get rid of the gloves, wash hands, you know, and you know, and immediately, like on day one, everybody thought you had to wear gloves because it made them feel safe. And within 2 weeks, if a guest saw a glove, they were like grossed out because they realized it means you're not washing your hands. You know, you just can't change them enough. So little things like that, we really had to turn really quickly and adjust to. But right now it's, you know, I'm trying to not think of this as the pandemic and how are we adjusting to the pandemic, but really just what is the needs of our guests, the needs of our teams, what makes them feel comfortable, you know, how do they want to have an experience with us, and how can we deliver that?
All right, thank you, Danielle. All right, what virtual tactics are you utilizing to remain successful? And I think Ken's already spoken to that, but if you want to give us a little bit more information.
You know, we are kind of far flung. We have stores in 2 states, so we had already been using a lot of virtual meetings, and you know, to get all of our teams together. We've got people in 4 or 5 different places at once, so that's been something that we've been doing for quite some time. So that wasn't a big pivot for us. It was figuring out new ways to reach customers. Some customers still are afraid to go out of their homes. We developed ways to deal with a customer by on FaceTime. If somebody wants to walk around the showroom with one of my sales teams, you know, we've developed ways to do that. We've been driving towards being an omni-channel company for quite some time. So my sales team is used to working with a customer on the telephone on our website. But that's something we've just ratcheted up. There's a lot more of that going on right now. We're commingling our e-commerce and our brick and mortar business more than we ever had. One thing that we have noticed is people who were sort of not ready to shop online. There still were people like that felt they needed to buy stuff in a brick and mortar store. Those people have tried an online experience and discovered that it's pretty robust. It's something that they could do, and so those people still might want somebody to talk to, but they're at least getting more comfortable with an experience. They might just need somebody to talk them through it. So those are the kind of virtual sales tactics that we've been using. And you know, we still have a lot of people that have discovered they don't mind working from home. Our marketing team, a lot of our accounts payables team, that makes it easy. That's going to make it easier for us to recruit people who don't necessarily have to have a presence. Like when you're in a restaurant, you need a server to be there to serve. We need brick and mortar salespeople to handle customers that come into the stores. But there's a lot of work that doesn't need a presence. It doesn't matter when we do our AP or AR. You know, those kind of people can be anywhere, and we've discovered that that's pretty effective for us, and it will enable us to recruit from a bigger work pool with people that can be anywhere now.
Awesome. Very nice. Giana?
So unlike Ken, even though we had team members all over Florida and Georgia, we did not use video conferencing prior to the pandemic. So now that Zoom has become our lifeline, we use it all of the time. And it's been a very valuable tool for communicating across our regions and our departments. And I expect we will continue that using Zoom for years to come. We have now our chief engineers have monthly meetings and get to share war stories and see what they're experiencing in their regions and if it's applicable to another region. We have monthly property manager meetings, and we're doing a lot more company-wide meetings. From a customer perspective, we, as a value add investor, we have always leveraged our amenities on our properties as a value to our tenants. And obviously those are closed right now, and a lot of our customers aren't in our office buildings. So we still wanted to have that touch point, have that customer experience, offer them something, an amenity as if they were still going to work, because they are still working. So we contracted with a third-party vendor called Home, and they allow us to do virtual programming. There are fitness classes available to all of our tenants every single day. And we also twice a month do different themed webinar experiences, DIY candle making. We're doing finger foods that you can make for Halloween that look spooky. Next month, we're going to do a gratitude workshop for Thanksgiving, and people can, do it with their other team members. They can do it with their kids. And so we wanted to continue to offer those amenities and that service, even though people weren't physically coming into our buildings.
That's amazing. Very cool. Very, very cool. Danielle, I know this question might not be as applicable to you.
Yeah, so obviously, like Ken mentioned, like we have to have people come into our building now that we're resuming regular activities, but we have leveraged some virtual things like online ordering, like we did for groceries, but now we have third-party vendors for delivery for to-go food, excuse me. I've noticed that our reservation rates have gone through the roof versus just walking in. People make sure they have a reservation now because they don't want to wait in a communal area. They want to make sure they have a table ready. One thing that we did have to adjust to, which has still been a little bit of a challenge, is that our table times, how long people sit at the table, is almost double what it used to be, because there's nowhere really to go afterwards. It's not like you go eat and then you go bar hop down the street. They're really sitting down, enjoying their time there and spending twice as much time as they may have used to spend. So we've had to adjust all of like our algorithms with our reservation softwares and such. And we're working on things right now, like pay at the table from your phone, ordering from your phone at the table. And I think some of these will continue to use long after the pandemic is gone, just because, like Ken said, that people are learning that they enjoy this new experience, the convenience of it. Being able to say like, yeah, I'll have another martini right now, and I don't have to wait for the server to walk over. It's creating just a whole new experience in how we used to do business. So I think many of these tools will stick around.
Very well. All right, I'm excited for this next question. How are you keeping positivity amongst your team? Ken?
Just keeping our communication going and seeing where we are at any one point, and celebrating any wins. Whatever win there are. I mean, we did reforecast all of our goals. Even we forecasted a 70% declines in the months during the shutdown. And then celebrating anybody that at least hits that. We were celebrating touch points, who had the most phone calls. So whatever you have an opportunity to do, public rewards, public celebrations on anything. Pick something and figure out something that you can all cheer about together. Each break point, every time you hit a new lever, a new platform, celebrate it, and celebrate the things that we've done to survive another month under a crisis situation.
Giana?
Yeah, so with that initial town hall, our partners kind of giving all of our people those assurances. I mean, you were seeing there was this panic. You were seeing millions unemployed every single day, and your employer is telling you your job is absolutely safe. I think it really our company culture has never been stronger. I think our team members have a big appreciation for the job and the people that they're working for right now. And our communication has never been stronger across the regions, across the departments. People don't feel like they need to operate in their own silo, at their own property, at that level. They can reach out to their peer groups in other regions and other states. I did some fun contests over the summer where we asked employees to share their best piece of advice for passing the time when everything was closed, and they all had very unique creative ideas. They started new hobbies, and the winners got some Amazon gift cards. So I think doing those little contests where you get to learn from your other team members and sharing those stories makes us all stronger.
Danielle?
So keeping positivity. So I'm not going to claim to be rainbows and unicorns every day, but I think that by us just kind of
Why is Amanda laughing?
Sorry, I tried to keep it in, I just couldn't.
I think that that we even more so than positivity, I think that we kind of kept kind of hope alive by staying open. I mean, we saw so many restaurants around us close, and there just were no other options. And we were fortunate enough to find some other things to do. And I think that gave us a sense of like hope. Like everybody was like, and I think Amanda at one point turned to me, she's like, what are we going to do next week? And I'm like, I don't know, but we're open and the wheels are still turning, which gives us room for opportunity. And then all of a sudden, well, because we are open, we can do a catering for the hospital, or we can do another opportunity that other people can't do it because we were still kind of keeping it alive. And everybody's mentioned here, you can't do it alone, and everybody was in it together. And we didn't know what the next week would bring, but we would just be like, all right, what can we do this week? Can we put together care packages for our 70 employees that are furloughed right now? And we did that a number of times, and it just kept everything moving. I know, Ken, you talked about communication. I mean, being really open and honest with everybody, with just saying, hey, we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring or what our next step is, but we're going to keep talking about it together. And I think the most positive thing was how well received. We had those same conversations with our guests through, our social media and through our email marketing. And it was really open and honest, and here's where we're at every day. And I think that really paid off. And people wanted to support us when we were back open because of that. So, and then Amanda filled in with the unicorns and rainbows for us.
I mean, there is something to be said with just keeping the wheels on the bus,
Yeah.
just staying in business and staying with it. And business is a marathon. There are going to be people that are going to drop off. There are going to be competitors that are going to go away. Eventually, demand is going to pick back up. This was a very, very weird crisis. This is just a complete endemic creation. There was nothing internal, nothing in the framework of the economy that broke like it did in 2008. Right. So the demand is still there. People are still going to want to go out to a restaurant and eat. People are still going to want good food. There's still going to be demand to occupy properties that, whether it's office buildings or any kind of spaces. And I think people are still going to want to buy stuff for their homes. So if we're just able to keep the wheels on the bus and keep going until demand picks back up, it will pick up eventually. And if you happen to be the last one standing in the ring, then you're going to get your fair share.
I think it's really all just about pivoting. Ken, you're saying you're finding employees that actually like working from home. We're finding out that there's actually some silver linings to this and things you're learning about yourself and how you do business that we will continue on outside of the pandemic. It's a punch to the gut initially, but you can never stay complacent in how you operate your business. So I think we wish it didn't happen, but there's a lot of lessons that we can take from it that will ultimately make everyone stronger.
I mean, fighters do practice taking punches to the gut. Once you take one and you're still standing, you said, okay, that was a punch to the gut, but I'm still standing.
Exactly. Being able to overcome those hurdles. I think that's a great way to put that. So, all right, so let's start to switch gears here a little bit. And what are your goals for the next 6 months? Where do you see your business going, et cetera, et cetera? Ken?
we're going to have to be merging our systems. That's what we are focused on structurally. We have a different system that we run our e-commerce team with and a different system that we run a brick and mortar team with. When we started to try to merge those, either from a customer service standpoint or from a sales standpoint, one team doesn't know how to work in the other team's system. So that's a focus that we are going to have to, we're going to have to merge those systems. We're going to have better technology to be able to make that more seamless for our customers and for the people on our team.
Very well, Giana.
So a majority of our tenants are still waiting for 2021 to consider a return to the office or increase their occupancy. So our next 6 months, we're just focusing on being as prepared as possible. We've seen increases in occupancy, since March, obviously, but we're still sitting around 20-25% across the portfolio. So for us, it's just keeping our buildings safe and sustainable and ready for when it does eventually hit full occupancy. What do we do with peak hours and people trying to fill the elevators to get to their office, trying to kind of navigate all these hurdles now so that when that occupancy increases next year, we'll be ready.
Danielle?
6 months from now kind of feels like a lifetime, especially if we take a look back at 6 months ago, which is really kind of when this started, and so much has changed. So I think I'm still a little bit short-sighted right now, just because things are changing so dramatically in our industry. Our regulation is still, some days, the county doesn't know what it is because the state's overriding it. So, we're really every day kind of adapting to that. But for us, it's really trying to see, and we talked about this, are the needs of our guests, and is that experience, have they enjoyed some of the new experiences that we've provided? Like Ken said, they've learned, online ordering is not so bad, and there's some conveniences here. And Giana, you said, we've seen some silver linings in this, and I've definitely have felt that. So I think in the next 6 months, it's really just going to be about sifting out what we can sustain and how we can, just continue some of these good practices that we've started.
Thank you very much. So as you all know, this is a professionals under 40 group. And so we do have, it's a much younger team. So with all the kids, graduating college right now and people coming into the workforce, what would be your advice, your professional advice for those starting in their new career paths? Ken?
I would say be authentic all the time. Giana, who I don't remember who you quoted on that. You don't get a, you don't get a second chance. I mean, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. If you are just authentic all the time, build a team of people around you. You don't have to be the leader of a company to build your team. Build it with peers, and build it with with direct reports, the people who you report to. I just be honest. That's the easiest thing to breach. If people, that you have a reputation for honesty, for calm, then you'll be the go-to person in a crisis. Be honest about your weaknesses and your shortcomings. Build on them if you can, but if it's something about you don't want to build, supplement it with a teammate, take a partner in a peer, or be honest about it with a direct report and say, here's a skill that I need to learn that I want to get better at. And care about people. Don't constantly reinforce that trust and caring. You can't wait until you're in a crisis or until you're in a situation to build that. You have to build those things all the time, and build relationships. Join these peer groups. Build relationships with people who can help you, and build relationships with people who you can help. When you're meeting somebody new for the first time, think about, who can I help them with? What can I help them build? Who can I introduce them to? And those are the kind of things I would advise somebody who's starting out.
I think that's not only good advice for somebody starting out, but good advice for all of us. I love that. Yeah. Be authentic all the time. That's great. Thank you very much, Ken. Giana?
Something that I struggled with early in my career, and something that I think we're all learning from this pandemic, is to take everything one step at a time. Don't don't think 10 years out, and try not to overthink. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to figure it all out, because you're going to go through many phases and different priorities throughout your life. So make decisions based on what's best for you right now and your personal growth, and what's most important to you, and the rest will eventually work itself out.
I like that. Can I call you once a week to remind me not to overthink? Danielle.
Yeah, so like Giana, very similar. I would say embrace the stress, right? So understanding that it's just kind of part of the process of what happens every day, and don't personalize it and let it define your decisions that you're making. We talked about gut punches earlier, and now like when there's a gut punch, I kind of laugh, like that's all you got? Like you have to take it like that and understand it's not about you, it's just the circumstances that are going on, and it doesn't define who you are, and you know, how you handle it really defines who you are. So, but I think oftentimes when people get started out, they really say, oh my goodness, there's so much coming at me at once. And you really have to embrace that and just take each thing as it comes at you and handle it one at a time. Like make your stressors get in line, you know, don't let them all dump into a bowl where you're trying to sort them out, you know, so that's been something really big for me. I know early on I had an instance where I was like, I had a business thing, and one of my early mentors, I was sharing with her and I was crying, and she's like, why are you crying? This is business. This is like, we're just talking about this. Why are you personalizing it? You know, that it's about you. And I was like, oh geez. And ever since then, it's like, kind of like a weight was off my shoulders. So.
Awesome. Well, that concludes all of the questions that we had for you guys. Sarah, I am going to ask that you maybe read some of the questions that are in the Q&A. If you could do that for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Moderator. Thank you very much. And Madam Chair. It's funny, the first three questions are exactly the same. And it's, you know, great minds think alike. So Jordan, Ross, and Anne-Marie literally have the same question, which is, and I'll summarize it because they wrote it differently, but it's all the same. You know, what have you basically learned through all of this that you're going to continue to implement moving forward, that you're with or without a pandemic, you now know you're going to bring that forward. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, Danielle, you go first.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. I think there's so much. It's funny actually, and I'll just mention this from a restaurant perspective. You know, when this started happening, we kind of were laughing. We're like, do people not normally disinfect their tables? And some of these things that we were regulated to do, we were like, we've been doing this forever. Like this is a normal thing. But I definitely think some of the automations and the table side automations are here to stay. You know, pay by your phone and ordering from your table. So I think some of those are really just adding to the experience. And for us, it's figuring out how do you have the virtual experience and hospitality come alongside one another, which is, you know, sometimes they're polar opposites of each other, but how do they complement each other for that experience, for that guest experience, and still make it personal? So we'll be exploring that a lot more.
Perfect. All right. How about you, Ken?
Just keeping a seamless integration for our processes and our systems, because people are going to jump back and forth between, you know, between platforms, between positions. So as easy as we can make it for the customers and as easy as we can make it for our team, you know, the better we'll be able to service and handle it.
Absolutely. And, you know, your business has actually skyrocketed, it sounds, when it comes to people are stuck in their homes now. So they're sitting on their couch and they're looking up and seeing how yellow the cans are on their recessed lighting and all of those things. So have you seen quite a bit of, I know that you had projected to lose 70% during those closed months, but you must be finding new customers, people that you've not met before that are just completely redoing their homes because they're tired of seeing what, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there is disposable income out there with people unfortunately not traveling and not eating out as much as they were. They have disposable income now, and they are spending it on their homes. People are building homes with indoor offices because now they've discovered they can work from home, and if the kids have to work from home, they need to build that space. So whether it's remodeling or getting a bigger home, so home sales are skyrocketing, mortgage rates are still very low. So there's a lot of positive macroeconomic things that are affecting my business in particular right now, in the home furnishings industry in general.
Absolutely.
So we're having a challenge getting people back to work, getting new people back to work. In some ways, some of the government programs with the extra unemployment benefits, people were making more money to stay at home. So they didn't necessarily want to go back to work, want to get another job because they're doing just fine, staying at home. So in some ways, those things were hurtful to us to try to get some people on the team to take care of the increased demand that we saw.
Oh, that's true. A lot of moving parts. All right, Miss Giana.
I think the biggest thing that I'll take away professionally and personally is to be more flexible, be more adaptable. And Sarah, I'm sure you can agree, I put on events all the time. And when this first hit, it was like, okay, well, then there's just no events. Well, as you saw that there was no end in sight, you have to adapt. You have to figure out a new way of doing things. And I think kind of trying to stay away from getting complacent and always looking for the new opportunity so that the next time you're punched in the gut, you're a little bit more prepared. You can be proactive rather than reactive. And Danielle, I have to laugh because do people not disinfect their tables? When we saw what our competitors were putting out there about how they were keeping the building safe, it's our preventative maintenance protocols that we do every single day, every quarter, every year. So when we try to kind of put our own guidebook together, we're like, do people just want to know how we clean? So I think maybe educating people that pandemic or not, your buildings are safe, your tables are clean, and we were doing all of this beforehand.
Perfect. Very true. Very true. Would you share maybe one or two of the events that you brought forward during this pandemic that maybe you put together, like a Boca Center? Would you share some of those?
Yeah, so at BRiC, which is the old IBM campus, we wanted to be a community destination for the last 2 years and have been putting on in-person events. So we did a webinar, a voting discussion with elected officials from across the county, just educating people, because really what we wanted to do was create value. There were a lot of virtual events out there at the time that we started brainstorming. And so we wanted to do something that was going to be unique and something that was going to provide value. So I think that first dipping your toe into the virtual event pool was successful. And then we also started doing, we did a drive-in movie at BRiC. So rather than putting you inside of our campus, we at least have a lot of parking lots if you've been there. So we were able to do a drive-in movie, and we will be doing another one November 18th and showing Elf. So we'll be rolling that out soon, benefiting the Junior League. And at Boca Center, it was difficult because our retailers and our restaurants were the most impacted, and we wanted to drive traffic, but my boss would not allow the potential for a super spreader event of any kind. So we wanted to draw traffic, just not all at once. So what we currently have in place there is a fall festive photo backdrop. So you and your family or your friends can go take photos and then please walk the center, have dinner, have lunch. We have a social media campaign. If you post your photo with the backdrop, Fall Feels at Boca Center is the hashtag. You can enter for a chance to win a gift basket with gift cards to all of our retailers. And we'll be doing a similar thing for the holidays. Hopefully we can try to get a virtual Santa or something so that you can still get your child to sit on Santa's lap, but virtually.
Wow, that'll be interesting.
We're trying hard. I can't confirm yet, but I think we'll be able to make it happen.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for that. Okay, so here's a few more, some more questions. So, I thought this one was very interesting. Has there been a challenge that you're still trying to figure out how to overcome? You know, still at this point, and we will start with Giana.
I kind of already answered in one of the questions, but the HVAC issue, out of anything that we could do, I mean, we learned halfway through the pandemic that you can't really spread it through surfaces. So rather than kind of focusing on antiviral or microbial surfaces, we were focused on the air. What can we do to make sure that the air is clean? And there are a lot of new technologies out there right now, and there's all these new companies claiming to have the next greatest thing that's going to kill the virus. And it's hard to know what to trust, what to believe, what's effective. We're still trying to figure out in general how the virus spreads. So being able to decide the best solution for ensuring that our air quality is industry leading has been the challenge we're still working on. But we will hopefully have an answer very soon.
Absolutely. Now, Miss Danielle.
I think our biggest challenge that we're still having is just regulating guests, and whether it be through masks or communing at the bar. People give us a really hard time on that, and that's been a true struggle. And as the rules start to loosen, it's actually gotten a little bit worse. People want to argue about it, and that's just whether that's a policy in place on a county level or state level. It's something that we're implementing now, and we're going to continue until we feel safe. But that's been a really interesting challenge. People want to, really push back and get pretty aggressive about where their stance is on some of these topics, and it's just what we're all doing to do our part to stay safe. So,
Well, as somebody who's gone out to eat very little, but out of the 5 times I've gone out to eat, 2 of those times have been at Oceans, and both of those times I was in really bad moods before I got there, and I left in a great mood both times. You guys have done a phenomenal job keep making me as a customer feel safe, and those that I went with, everything very clean. You have really good hand sanitizer, I must say, at your tables. Which, sometimes you come across some nasty hand sanitizer. Yours smells good. But, you guys really have been an example for a lot of other restaurants that should take a look at what you've done. And I think it's fascinating that your industry is constantly changing through all of this. So, the gloves were important, and then they quickly were not. And the dining time, and having to consider people now spending more time at the table. So I can see you having unanswered questions because things are constantly changing still in your industry. So fascinating. All right, Mr. Lebersfeld.
I think we're dealing now with enforcement fatigue. We have, like Danielle alluded to, we have more people coming in, with a mask down around their nose or a chin strap kind of a thing working. And people on our team, I think everybody is just sort of getting tired of this. And that might be a reason why we see cases spiking. I mean, they're trying to open up society. People are getting just tired of doing the things that we don't want to do, wearing masks, not going out, not seeing their friends. When I have people come in the showrooms here, more and more, we have to emphasize that this is not over yet. We do not have a vaccine. Treatments, hospital beds are still in limited supply. We possibly have some better treatment protocols and treatment drugs more available. But still, you don't want to get sick. You don't want to have to go into a hospital. We see cases spiking because people are just getting fatigued on it. And I think it's up to leaders to put up a better face and say, this is not over yet. We're going to be dealing with this for a few more months. Let's just do it and knock this thing out and try to keep everybody as healthy as we possibly can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, we're going to do a power round because there's more questions. So like 15-second answers. Are you ready? Ross, his question is having large amount of physical space, office and retail space for your business a benefit or a hindrance right now? And do you expect that to change? Ken.
Right now we need space to, for customers to feel safe and for my teammates to feel safe. So right now we do need the space.
Absolutely. Plus you have a showroom. You need to show that off. All right, Danielle.
I think right now it's not about how big your space is, but having the right space. And for us, we're fortunate we have the outside seating, so we're doing great there. But if you have a lot of inside space, it can be difficult. It doesn't matter how much you have. It's people want to be outside for our industry. So
Right, Giana.
So over the last 10 years, square foot per employee has decreased because employers were trying to cram as many people as they could into picnic tables. And so we actually see that even if less employees are going to the office every single day, you're going to need more space per employee. So we are pretty optimistic that the space will, maybe you're reconfiguring the space, but you're not downsizing, especially in suburban office.
Right. All right, next question. On the strategies implemented, has the focus been more on keeping clients or acquiring new business? And what has been the best strategy implemented from a sales perspective? And we'll go with Danielle.
That's interesting because right now we're trying to figure out who our guests are and who's visiting us, because that tourist aspect is not there. So it's a lot of locals, a lot of regulars, and obviously we're focusing on really retaining that crowd and then attracting new people because they hear that we are doing the right things. So it's so important that we're consistent on that every single day.
It's true. Interesting. Giana.
I would say similar to Danielle, it's a little bit of both. At the beginning of the pandemic, nobody was touring any space or trying to make any legitimate moves. So it was really focusing on our existing tenants and making them comfortable and making them see value in continuing to pay rent. So we definitely wanted to emphasize the tenant experience, but that has always been a huge focus of us and of what I do every day. Now that things have opened up a little bit, we are seeing some good leasing activity, and surprisingly, especially in retail with Boca Center. So people are ready to move forward, slowly but surely. And so I think it's really, juggling both.
Awesome. Ken.
And one of our pivots was when we saw our retail business shutting down was to pivot to do commercial. Was never a strong focus for us. We always concentrated on residential retail products, but that wasn't available. So we did pivot to do some commercial products and build relationships there. And that has turned out to be a singular focus point for us. That'll be a major part of our business in 2020, 2021, and beyond. We have built a complete team around it and a whole new set of vendors and a whole new set of processes. So it's a different customer that we now figure we've got the resources for, and we've got the team to go after it. So that's been a bright spot for us in having to figure out something different.
Right. All right, I'm not going to be able to go with the next few questions because it's already 1 o'clock. Amanda, did you have anything you wanted to ask or share before?
No, just thank you for having me for the last 2 years as chair. Jordan, I wish you the best luck. I can't wait to see all of the new ideas and new members that you're going to bring to the committee. And it's been an absolute pleasure and honor. And I'm sad to say bye.
We're not saying goodbye because we're still keeping you around for sure. But yes, Danielle, you might have a little bit more time now. But I do want to thank you, Amanda, for your leadership again. I want to thank the 3 panelists. Again, you guys are rock stars. I wrote down so many quotes. Oh, and you're literally a rock star.
Me too.
And you know what? Amanda's literally a rock star too, I must say.
Right.
but thank all three of you for
Should be
participating.
over by one.
And I think Chastity has a slide she was gonna show on an upcoming Pulse event that we have. And there we go. So we have this awesome event coming up on the 17th of November. It's for Pulsers. It's a beer tasting. This was Amanda's idea, and we can all thank her at the end. Do you have the two breweries that are participating?
Barrel of Monks and Prosperity.
So Barrel of Monks Prosperity, you're going to be able to pick up your beer at the chamber in advance. And it's just going to be it'll be totally fun. Zoom or virtually. So plus you don't have to worry about driving home after. So it'll be perfect.
Exactly.
Silver linings, I'm telling you.
Totally. Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you guys all again for being a part of the panel, and I look forward to seeing you. And I do want to say one more thing, Danielle. The Brussels sprouts are amazing.
The new ones, they're good. They're
Yes,
really good.
yes. If Chastity's, if she can, I mean, we went there just a couple days ago, last Friday, and delicious. So
Thank you.
again, thank you all, and I look forward to the next round of virtual events. So take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a good afternoon.